It's a regular hate triangle between the Mafia, the Yakuza, and the Punisher. Who will survive? Find out as we review 1989's The Punisher, starring Dolph Lundgren, this time on Last Action Zeros.
In a world overrun with podcasts, comes yet another underground, independent, amateur, completely irrelevant, perhaps kind of shitty, action movie podcast. Hosted by a couple of zeros. Poddy Humor brings to you two men, two beards, one podcast that puts the FU in Kung Fu.
All right.
Yeah.
The hard and hard sci-fi.
Right on.
Clever.
Boom and shoot 'em up.
What?
That's bad
The
news.
two in gratuitous violence.
Well, that's kind of reaching.
Okay.
They are the Last Action Zeros.
So this movie was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I thought this movie was probably going to suck. And this movie fucking kind of ruled.
Yeah, I have to say it did. Like, I remember as a kid watching it and not really liking it, but I think that was because it was kind of a mature story, but also I think it just threw me off that it didn't have the skull on his chest.
Yeah.
And I was like, as a kid, I was like, oh, it's a comic. I want it to be a superhero kind of movie. But no, it aged pretty well, I mean.
I feel like I was expecting it not to be anywhere as close to an actual, like, Punisher story as it was. Like, maybe because it didn't have the skull on the shirt. I think, I thought, growing up, I know for years, I was like, okay, they turned Dolph Lundgren's hair black, they call him Frank Castle, and I felt like maybe that was where the Punisher, like, similarities ended. But no, I mean, this is pretty much like a fucking straight up, like, it's almost like a perfect Punisher movie, other than there's no fucking skull on the shirt. I mean, maybe they changed some names of some people.
They changed some things, but the movie gets a lot of shit over the fact that it actually is deviated from the source material, but it really didn't, as you're saying. Like, they reinterpreted, okay, his family was killed in a car bomb, as opposed to in the middle of Central Park. Okay, yeah. They changed that. Changed the names of his wife and children. I'm pretty sure the wife was not named Maria. And that's definitely his wife's name from the comics. And the kids, I know they changed the kids' name.
If that's what made you not like the movie, then you're just a fucking piece of shit. Like, fuck that. You're just a pretentious fanboy who's like, why couldn't they have done it exactly like the comic?
I mean, it was, you got to take into account a few things. Like, it actually wasn't an American movie. It was made in Australia and released in Australia. I looked up some of the facts, and it was never actually, it never got a theatrical release.
Yeah. Actually, Dan was telling me that before we started. I guess I could mention this week our guest, Dangerous Dane Wilson, of already a Poddy Humor president. We'll call you kind of de facto.
A co-founder, at least.
He's technically our boss, although I don't think he would or could fire us. I mean, I guess he could just be like, you guys are dicks, I'm not putting your show up anymore. But, I mean, I don't think we're dicks.
No, I mean, you're here kind of because you're dicks, so it's okay. You were recruited. No, not to me. You're dicks to everyone else, and that's what entertains me.
Well, at any minute,
which is why you're here.
At any given minute, as you know, I can be a dick to any given person.
No, that's true. Yeah, I mean, Miller's one of my best friends in the entire world, so and he's been a dick to me many times over the years. But
this movie flopped. It was a flop, but I thought it was a fucking good movie. I thought this was a dandy film.
To be it was late '80s, but it's still for that time, I think it was pretty awesome. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of super violent, blood explosion movies. So I mean, but I was pleased. I didn't. There was never a point where I'm like, oh God, I can't believe I'm watching this.
So let's just get into the movie then, right? And we'll just kind of start from the beginning and we'll work our way through it. We're just going to fucking cover the entire movie.
Outstanding.
I mean, it's right from the get-go. I thought the opening credits were pretty cool. I liked the effects for that, the music and everything, the scoring and everything I thought was really great.
It was kind of similar to the way modern Marvel movies do it now, like where they show especially ones that are going to skip an origin story, kind of like how the Edward Norton Hulk did, where it gives like a little, the opening credits kind of serve as the background montage kind of.
Yeah, and I love this movie they didn't bother showing the origin, but they referenced it in such a way that you knew exactly what it was. You weren't confused.
Yeah, you don't see it until later in the movie. They do a little brief flashback of the car blowing up in his driveway, if you remember.
So do they ever say in the movie? A couple times I would look down and write some notes, so I might miss some dialogue. Did they ever explain why the mob car bombed them? Because later in the movie, the main mob guy's like, well, that was it was a mistake. We weren't supposed to kill your family. And that was all they fucking mentioned it, as to why it happened.
I think it's just assumed that he was a cop and they were probably coming down hard on the mob.
Right. Well,
they never flat out said it.
No, they never flushed it out.
Well, let's just say that's a horrible movie mechanic to just let us assume.
It's just implied.
Look,
they're bad guys and he's a good guy, so obviously they want to kill the good guy.
Right. They were. I think the main bad guy was it wasn't supposed to be your family. It was just supposed to be you. I guess was what he was saying.
Yeah.
And that cold open sequence that you referenced that set the tone nicely also sets one giant tone of the movie for Frank Castle, and that motherfucker invests a lot of money in throwing knives. Because he is throwing knives at these motherfuckers left and right, just knife after knife, to the back, to the neck, to the side, to the head.
And they're all custom too. They've all got. That's where the skull showed up. I thought that was nice. I was like, well, they are nodding to the skull.
Yeah, the skull gets love. It makes appearances. Something I thought was weird. It was they talk about, because the movie opens with, I guess, some mob guy. He's just gotten done with his trial, and I guess he somehow has been acquitted. And this was of the murder of Frank Castle and his family. And it's weird because it talks about, it was a 5-year trial, is what it talks about. But then they talk about how the Punisher, his killing spree has been 10 years. So I was like, well, wait, what?
I feel like they said it was 5 years, a bunch. They said it was 125 people over the course of 5 years. That was my understanding.
Yeah. Well, maybe I just heard it wrong. That's what they say. Yeah, he killed 125 people over the course of either 5 years or 10 years. Either way, that's pretty fucking impressive. That's a lot of guys.
And I don't know exactly how many are the Punisher's actual body count, and they did this figure doesn't include people that died off screen in explosions, implied deaths. But the kill count for this movie was 91.
91, not too shabby.
And I know a lot of them were his. So he came pretty close to his total kill count
in just this movie, which seems to take place over the course of a few days. I thought it was awesome, that whoever the mob guy that I guess killed Frank Castle and his family. Obviously, he didn't actually kill Frank Castle, but he's assumed dead at this point.
Yes.
You think Frank Castle's dead. The world thinks Frank Castle's dead, except for the media. The media really seems to think Frank Castle's the Punisher, but the cops don't believe that. The cops are like, no, Frank Castle's dead. So I don't know, maybe the media hired a private eye or something to figure that out. But he comes out of this trial, the mob guy, and Frank Castle's just across the street on a motorcycle.
He's just hanging
there, he's just waiting for him to follow him to kill him, and we'll get to that scene. But I thought that was it's like this was this was a trial for your murder, and he's just outside there.
In broad daylight.
It's the middle of the day. He sticks out like a fucking sore thumb on this badass motorcycle. He's dressed in all black.
I will say I did like his outfit. I feel like the pants were particularly cool. I would wear those pants, and I feel like they would actually work in a modern day kind of Punisher setting. If they had just, painted the skull on it, it would totally work as they could dress, Dolph Lundgren, I guess he's too old now, but they could get someone else and put that exact same wardrobe on him, and it wouldn't look dated at all,
I have to say, other than not putting the skull on the shirt, visually, they really captured, even I was very impressed by the 5 o'clock shadow shading was almost, identical to the comic book Frank of the 80s, the Chuck Dixon era Punisher stuff that it was spot on. It was the shading technique that dudes use with the mascara pen, either when you're in high school trying to fill in the stubble shades, or if you're old and don't want to use Just for Men, but they just made a nice little fake 5 o'clock shadow for him, and it actually was very much like the source material there.
I enjoyed it. The only thing that I probably could have done without visually was but it was kind of cool, like this, for the mood, I guess. But I didn't need to see his butt in that like meditation.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that. So he follows the mafia guy, like to his mansion, to his mafia mansion. And I thought, and this scene was really fucking badass. A lot of sweet, violent kills, but it was also pretty hilarious. There was some hilarity here, and like first thing he does when he gets in, he's like, let's celebrate. But first, you all check the house. Seemingly checking the house for the Punisher is what I figured. Like he suspect because all mafia people at this point are probably pretty fucking wary of the Punisher. So it's like he sends these guys out specifically to check for the Punisher, and then like the first guy that like hears a noise in the attic is like completely confused. He's like, huh? And the Punisher's like arm comes out from the ceiling and stabs him in the chest with a knife. It's like the noise in the attic is probably the Punisher. I mean, that's who you're on guard for, is the Punisher. And like I think he literally is like, huh? What? What's that noise?
There's a lot of dopey henchmen in this movie.
So he got some cool kills in there. They had a sweet mirror room. It was like a sweet like homage to like Enter the Dragon. It like looked like the exact same fucking room as Enter the Dragon. And I love that like, he blows up like the last. It's like he confronts like the old mob guy that like I guess was the one that got off on the trial that supposedly had killed his family, and like that guy like pulls a gun on him. And then, like, the scene cuts to the outside of the house, and, like, just a big fucking explosion happens. And I love that it's, like, this explosion happens, like, blows out, like, all the windows of the house. But then the bad guy walks out and falls down, and he has the fucking, like, Punisher knife in his back. It's like, not the fucking explosion.
Right.
Not the fucking explosion. It was the fucking little Punisher throwing knife is what did that guy in, not the fucking explosion.
I think the explosion was just that, now you're dead, I'm going to destroy everything you've ever loved.
Right. And, I mean, that property had potential resale value. That was pretty prickish by the Punisher. And then the reporter, holy shit, it's the Punisher!
Yeah, I caught that.
Holy shit, there's the Punisher there! And then he, like, walks back into the house, and then it blows up even more.
Right.
And you don't really know how he got out, because, I mean, it's like, he walks back in, there's not enough time for him to, like, make a getaway before that house blows up. Like, it blows up the second after he walks back into it. He's not dead.
Maybe he found like an underground panel or something. I don't know.
Get to his Ninja Turtle-esque lair.
Sewer lair.
Just got to have some suspension of disbelief on that part. Hey, it's the Punisher movie. Stoked about this. Oh, he dies 5 minutes into it.
Yeah. That was rough. I thought maybe like, like this was like something that happens at the end of the movie or something, and like they're showing it first, and then the rest of the movie is going to be like what leads up to this, but that was not the case. He just didn't blow up. And that's where you get into the pretty cool, like, there's like a Punisher monologue that was like really, I thought was really fucking cool. It's like him talking in that like raspy Dolph Lundgren voice, like, God. It's like his conversation to God, like,
yeah.
Like, why did you do this to me, God? And we get to see, for some reason, Punisher kneeling naked in front of, I guess, like some type of altar, I guess. He's just totally naked.
Oh, what's really hilarious about that is that I was looking at some of the trailers and even on YouTube where I watched the movie. It says rated R for brief nudity and violence. And the brief nudity, hey, it's an action flick from the 80s. We're going to get a tit. At least one solitary tit. Maybe even two.
Right.
No, just
tits.
Two sexy Dolph Lundgren ass cheeks.
Yes, because they reprise. I'm pretty sure it was just the exact same shot. They reprise it at the end. It's like goes back to him just being naked. Like I think that's like how the fucking movie ends. If I remember correctly, you think I remember since I obviously just watched it for this podcast, but it's been a few days.
Yes, no, it's the last scene of the movie.
Yeah, it's like end on. Like they didn't shoot it twice. It's the same fucking shot of Dolph Lundgren's ass.
A couple cool facts about that monologue that he gives right there. He actually co-wrote that. And he apparently gives another one at the end that he also co-wrote. So it's cool that Dolph Lundgren is, had some input and it was actually like worthwhile.
Right.
But also that apparently, according to some of the research that I did, I should just know this being a metalhead, but the band Biohazard sampled that for a song they have called Punishment.
Yeah.
Which I didn't listen to. I should probably listen to it.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with that one. There's lots of gang chants, as most Biohazard songs do.
But I was just thinking, like, man, that's such a great sample for a metal song. I can't, you know.
So the next person we're introduced to is Lou Gossett Jr., who just comes right out the fucking gate being just a fucking awesome, like, don't take no shit cop.
What I love about Lou Gossett Jr. in the movie is that, like, he's clearly the only, like, major league actor that they've recruited for this. Like, you know, who's got serious chops and credentials.
Dude, that homeless thespian.
We'll get to him.
We'll get to the homeless thespian.
But, like, everybody else is, like, fucking down here, you know, just, like reaching for B-movie quality. And Lou Gossett Jr. is just acting his fucking ass off, man.
Delivering the goods. Delivering the motherfucking goods. And that's so the scene he comes in on there, like, investigating the burnt down house. I love that. It's like all the reporters, like, oh, it's Frank Castle. It's Frank Castle. Like, and he's like, no, it's not Frank Castle.
And then his cop buddy comes up, and he's like, I think it is Frank Castle.
For the record, Lou, we're pretty sure that's fucking Frank Castle.
No, the cop, Lou Gossett Jr. was saying that, you know, to the reporters...
That it's not, I know.
It wasn't Frank Castle.
He doesn't think it's Frank Castle.
But he does he does actually think that, because that's what gets him to recruit that chick cop. But the other cop was like, this Frank Castle stuff's got to die, and he's like, whatever, you know?
Yeah. And then you have the chick cop you mentioned. She's like that, you know, she wants to be his partner, and he's like, many have tried, lady, but she's got moxie, you know, so he's like, well, you just show up to work on Monday, and we'll see if you can cut the fucking mustard.
Lots of great 80s cop drama stereotypes in this movie.
I only work with the best. And then she gives, like, the most impressive friggin' resume she possibly could. Like, I was the top of my class. I'm the youngest who ever passed detective. I did pass detective on the first try.
Okay, so Lou Gossett Jr. is the head of the Punisher Task Force, but I feel like there was things in the movie that made it out like he wasn't actually, like, it was like the Punisher Task Force was almost like separate from the police force. Like, he wasn't actually a cop anymore. He was like almost like a...
I think he was a retired...
Like a retired police officer. It's like,
I think they said that later on.
Sure, maybe they did. I just thought that was funny that a Punisher Task Force isn't actually contained within the actual police force. That's another thing, too. And obviously, we're planning on doing the Punishers as like a 3-part here on Last Action Zeros. So we'll talk more about the other movies. But it seems like in all the movies, they don't give him like a military background. It's like he's a cop background in all of them. And like in the comics, he has like a fucking like, you know, like Green Beret, Special Forces kind of background, explaining why he would be so good at like violently taking out like numerous guys.
I do believe they kept it in Punisher Warzone, but I believe he wasn't a cop. He was an FBI agent in the Tom Jane Punisher. He was
right. Well, it's law enforcement. That's still law enforcement. That's not military.
Sure.
So it's like, I kind of wish that they would give, you know, it's like, give him that, you know, like hardcore fucking trained killer. Because in law enforcement, I mean, you're not a fucking like trained killer, you know, you're law enforcement.
No, and like the fact that he was a shot out Vietnam vet in the comics, to me, I always thought made it much more credible as to like, well, that could happen in real life, you know?
Yeah, it's like PTSD or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, like there's like the big like, is Frank Castle the Punisher? And I feel like that'd be pretty fucking obvious that he is. Like, you look at him, I mean, like there in the first scene, you know, where he blows up the house, and like, hey, it's the Punisher. Like, did they not? I mean, they all had. There was a shitload of cameras on him. It's like he just didn't step out of the gloom just enough, like you couldn't make out his face or something. Like,
but then they could like totally be like, well, we approximate his height and weight.
Yeah.
And Frank Castle's height and weight.
There's no mask, you know, like over his face. Like, I feel like you should just know that.
He did have those wacky motorcycle goggles, though. I thought those were funny.
Yeah, those were awesome.
Okay, and so from there you move to introducing a new character, which is like the main like mob guy. He's like arriving back in town. I guess like he's been gone a few years. Like he moved out of town. I would say because of the Punisher is what it made it seem like, was like he relocated because the Punisher was killing everybody. Which seems really interesting to me that he would come back to town at the height of the Punisher's fucking killing spree.
Right.
Maybe it was because he'd killed so many people, they just needed him back to, like, run mob activities.
Well, yeah, because the other guy said that if you hadn't come back, I'd be running the family. But I was kind of like, that was a big plan that he had been working on.
Right, well, that's what...
He needed to come back to implement.
Right, like, this guy comes back in, and he's got this new, like, this whole, like, restructuring plan of the mafia, which, I don't know, it kind of sounded to me like what he described kind of just to me sounded like how I've always thought the mafia just fucking worked.
Well, it's different, you know, it was split up into different families, which I guess were different gangs, and then he was going to unite them all.
Right, that's true, with him at the top. And they're like, you know, and the guy he's talking to is like, well, how are you going to pull that off? And he's like, I got this fucking shitload of drugs coming in. I guess he had enough money to, like, already have in place this, like, crazy multi-million-dollar drug deal that he's setting up, you know, like, let's get somebody from every part of from every family is going to be involved in some aspect of this big drug deal that he's laying down. I love the dude's kid. The fucking main mob dude's kid.
Oh, yeah.
Who, they set up in, like, the first scene where they come back into town, and that kid, like, is doing, he does, like, a magic trick for, like, the other mob guy, and he's, like, and he just, like, has this scummy laugh. The kid was, like, the most fucking believable, like, mob goon in the whole goddamn movie, to the point that I was like, man, I hope that, like, there's a scene where, like, maybe, like, the Punisher comes across this kid, and he's like, I don't kill kids, but then this kid fucking says something super scummy, and the fucking Punisher just caps him. I was hoping this movie would go there. I'm not saying yet whether it did or didn't go there. You'll find out later in the podcast whether that kid dies at the hands of the Punisher. I like that he's like, you know, the guy's like, you know, he's given this big plan for this drug deal, and like the other mobster's like, well, you know, we got this Punisher problem, and he's like, no, first we consolidate, then we obliterate, which seems like really counterproductive. I feel like you should fucking just take out the Punisher first.
Right.
I feel like that should be your number one priority, is getting rid of the guy that's killed 125 of you over the past 5 or maybe 10 years. I think it said 10. You say it says 5. I don't know.
I'm sticking to that. We'll look it up later and maybe post about it or something, who was right or not.
Okay. So they got that plan. It's like, hey, tomorrow at the docks, we're going to have this big old drug deal. Okay, so then the next scene introduces another character, the fucking homeless thespian.
Oh, man.
The homeless thespian.
Oh, my God.
I like how it's like the first thing you see him, he's like in a bar. He's like... and like there's like some guy and he's like you know, like, hey man, will you give me some money? And the guy like thinks he's like homeless or something, and he's like, I'm a thespian. The guy's like, thespian? Actor. Oh, okay, here's some money. Like a homeless guy, like, it's like, oh, you're an actor.
He was offended by thespian, I guess, because it rhymes with lesbian.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what the fuck are you? Get away from me. He's like, no, I'm an actor. Oh, okay, you're cool. Yeah, I'll buy you a drink. And then the bartender doesn't let him. Like, the guy's already agreed to do it. It's more money for the bartender. And he's like, no, get out of here. Quit bothering my customers.
Yeah, out on the street with you, hobo thespian.
And then the Punisher lures him, which I thought was hilarious.
With
a remote-controlled car with a bottle of whiskey on the back of it.
Yeah. So, like, the Punisher's really good at fucking piloting RC cars, because, like, he's nowhere in the shot.
Yeah.
Like, he's fucking driving that goddamn RC car from, like, 2 blocks away.
It's like, did he already have that? Because he's like, you were supposed to be here 4 hours ago. During that 4 hours, did he run and buy that RC car?
So what?
Whiskey, or did he have that? Or I'll have that just in case.
The homeless thespian is kind of, I feel like maybe he was playing, like, not really the microchip role, but he was kind of like that guy, like his kind of sidekick, because he was like his
was the
informant.
closest thing they had, and they didn't really ever bother explaining like where he came from or what his purpose was.
Well, his purpose was to give the Punisher all of his insider information as to what the mob was doing. But, like, how the fuck does this homeless dude, this homeless acting guy, like, they never explain why he knows so much.
He seems to have no connection to the mob whatsoever.
Yeah, but, I mean, he knows exactly what they're doing. Because, like, in this scene, he's like, hey, there's, like, something big going down. He's fucking, like, he's telling the Punisher about the big drug deal that this mob guy who just got back into town is fucking running. And, like, somehow the homeless fucking thespian figured it out. I guess he acted his way in, probably.
I guess.
But this guy was, like, straight up like, I am a master thespian. That's, like, how he fucking talked.
Yeah, see, he was the biggest stereotype of both a hobo and an actor character.
The character's name was Shake, and the actor is a guy named Barry Otto, who actually has a pretty impressive list of movies. So, in real life, the guy is actually a master thespian.
Right. Well, that's what, like, in the movie, they're probably, like, play an over-the-top actor, like a British stage actor.
He was in last year's Great Gatsby remake, so, I mean, he's still doing recent work, so.
Well, there you go. That guy's still in work. That's good to hear. I like that he calls him Mr. P. Hey, Mr. P! I feel like that didn't really fit with the thespian thing. I guess that was his homeless half.
Yeah.
His homeless half was the Mr. P.
Hey, you can take the hobo out of the rail yard, but you can't take the rail yard out of the hobo.
So, the next scene, probably my favorite scene in the movie, if for no other reason than scuba ninjas. This is the big drug deal. You know, this is this mob guy's big drug deal. This is his big plan. Punisher's on his way. The homeless fucking hobo thespian has told him, like, where to go to find this fucking drug deal. And the drug deal fucking it starts off with my favorite, like, dialogue of the whole movie.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
That was great. That was really good. That wasn't what I was thinking. I was thinking about, like, when the action starts to pick up, there's the guy in the car. He's wearing this wacky shirt. And I can't remember his name, but somebody says his name through the walkie, and he goes, yeah? Or he goes, what? And he's like, is everything okay? He goes, yeah. And then immediately a sword stabs.
Yeah, a ninja sword through the windshield into his chest. Well, that was what, like, because that's like a common theme in action movies is, like, you have the bad guys, and they kind of have the guards posted at all these different stations, and the guards are kind of getting, like, systematically eliminated. And it's like, I guess the director in this movie was like, I feel like these guards need to get at least a line in, which was unnecessary. Those guys did not need to be talking. They did not need to say anything.
I just love that guy's delivery. What?
That scene was badass. Let's see. We had a samurai sword through a windshield into a chest. We had a harpoon gun to the eye.
Oh, and then you combine Jason Voorhees and Batman in one move. He shoots the fucking harpoon, hits the guy to the eye, nails him to the van, and then glides down the fucking cord.
Yeah, the fucking harpoon, yes. Let's see, they had those sweet spiked balls. There was a sweet shoe knife. One of the ninjas had the, like, knife in his shoe, like, spin kicked the guy. And yeah, it was the Punisher zip line through the fucking chest into the fucking van, and he zip lines down to the guy's chest. And a bunch of throwing knives in that scene. Ninjas throwing knives, fucking Punishers throwing knives, all sorts of people throwing knives.
I feel like, and I guess I'd have to go back and rewatch it and count, but I feel like there were more knife deaths in this movie than gunshot deaths. Although, well, later on there's a lot more, like in the final showdown, but we'll get to that.
So basically what this is, in this scene, it's like the mob has like a drug deal like with some French guys, and there was some hilariously non-politically correct stuff about French people that maybe I shouldn't fucking repeat. Let's just say there was the other F word used in reference to the French people, which was fucking, it was hilarious. I'm sorry if there's any, gay people offended by me loving the fact that they called these French people the other F word.
Right.
It was funny. So, but the scuba ninjas are like the Yakuza, and this is like the Yakuza making a big power play. Because somehow, I guess the Yakuza maybe also talked to the homeless thespian, and so they also knew that this super discreet drug deal was going down, maybe. So this was like the fucking, like, Yakuza was like making a big power play. They fucking were taking out the mob guys. They try to steal the fucking van that has, I guess, the shit in it, or the money, had something in it, and Punisher manages to thwart that. He manages to fucking fuck the ninja up that's like trying to get away with the van. The van fucking like flies into the harbor, and then fucking Punisher gets fucking a throwing knife lodged in his chest, and then he hits the harbor. So that was a badass scene. Probably my favorite scene in the movie.
It was definitely the most, like, intense action sequence.
And that was all like 20 minutes. Like, that was fucking 20 minutes in. Was like all of that happened. So I was like, man, this movie fucking brought it with the first 20 minutes.
It was pretty much all action. I mean, it had a couple of lulls here and there, but I mean, there's somebody getting off at least within every 15-minute interval in the movie.
And I feel like that scene is the main one that I remembered from when I watched it as a kid.
Yeah.
Like I didn't remember too much else about the movie or the plot. I just remember this awesome nighttime harbor scene that was And the spike balls that stayed in my mind as a kid. I've never seen those anywhere else.
Scuba ninjas will stick with you for fucking years, I feel like.
How do you hide anything from scuba ninjas, especially if you're doing dirty deals out by the ocean front in the harbor? Yeah,
That's what they get, man. They went to the scuba ninjas domain. So, like, on the heels of this, you kind of have, like, Louis Gossett Jr., and now he's with, like, the chick cop with the moxie, are kind of, like, investigating this the next day. They're kind of, like, just, you know, they're piecing together, like, what's going on with the Punisher and the mob and everything. And I loved, like the chick cop, she's like, I think Ian's looking up her name right now. She's like, this is a drug deal gone bad. And then, like, a scuba ninja falls out of a van, and Louis Gossett Jr.'s like, guess again. And I'm like, I feel like it still looks like a drug deal gone bad. Like, or Louis Gossett Jr. just immediately figured it out, just seeing the one scuba ninja.
He's like, guess again. There's Asians in wetsuits here.
Yeah.
No drugs possible.
Yeah, not a drug deal gone bad. This is probably a drug deal gone right.
I honestly cannot find the female cop anywhere on this list of actors. But I did find something else. Frank Castle's wife's name in the movie was Annie, not Maria. We said Maria earlier, but it was actually Annie. So we'll clear that one up for any angry fanboys.
Not a Spanish name. Okay. I also love that, like, Punisher recovering from, like, I guess it was like the knife wound from the scuba ninja. It had, like, it's the 80s. They had seen Rambo 3, had saw the cool shit he did with fire to mend his wound. So they were like, we've got to have you heat up the end of, like, a fucking big ass Bowie knife and, like, cauterize that wound. Gots to happen. And he does.
It happens.
I did just find the female cop, and I remember from the movie her name is Sam, because she even tells that to I think it was to Louis Gossett Jr. It's like, Sam? It's like, Samantha. I knew that. I knew some girls go by Sam. I guess back in the 80s it wasn't as common, but
anyway. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it had, Who's the Boss had a fucking Samantha. Right. So fucking Louis Gossett Jr. should fucking know.
1989 was the Samantha, let's be honest.
Yeah. Samantha! So we cut to a mob meeting. They're about to meet with the Yakuza, which a guy, Yakuza, and the guy goes, Yaku what? Like, I didn't hear the like, I know what a Yaku is, but what is a Yakuza? A Yaku what?
And, like, again, maybe it's just, I'm privileged in the time that I've grown up, but I feel like in the 80s, especially if you are a mobster, you should be familiar with the other kinds of mobs that are out there. Like, it's kind of hard for me to believe that a mobster hasn't heard ever of the Japanese mafia, a.k.a. the Yakuza, but then again, maybe...
it was like one of them didn't. The other guy's like, it's the Japanese mafia, like, come on, you idiot. And so, like, this is like they're having a meeting with the Yakuza, being like, hey, why the fuck did your scuba ninjas come fuck up our drug deal? The, like, main Yakuza chick is like,
Tanaka, I think.
We are taking over, the Yakuza's taking over, we're going to own the mob. And they're like, what makes you fucking think we're going to let you own the mob? And they're like, we fucking, like, kidnapped your kids. Like, they went around and kidnapped, like, all of the mob people's kids.
No, they killed their babysitter. They shot the babysitter and took the kids.
Yeah, they killed, like every fucking babysitter. And there was, like, one, like, a kid was, like, oh, yeah, they killed all the babysitters, took all the fucking kids. And that was, like, how they could control the mob.
They snatched a lot of them up from schools. So I thought it was funny that, like, nobody, like, saw that and, like, was like, oh, that kid just got snatched. Let's go call the police. Like, I don't know. It seems like in a real public setting like that, if you just grab a kid and run off with him, I think that would be kind of sketchy. But then again...
Maybe not. Maybe not in 1989 it wasn't.
No, probably just his babysitter.
So let's see. Where does the movie take us from here? I love that, like, at one point, the, like, mob boss guy, like, was able to give a really, like, detailed backstory of, like, the main Yakuza chick. Like, really intimate details. Like, he's, like, trying to, like, I guess, like, scare his subordinates or something. Like, don't take this chick lightly. Here's some shit she did in her past. And I was like, that I should not fucking know at all. How the fuck do I even know this as an American mobster? Like, some fucking shit. Like, it was like she had, like, killed her, like, twin brother or something to take control. But it was, like, a super intimate story. There was just no reason why he should have known it. Also thought it was awesome. There's like a scene with the like cop chick. Do we figure out Sam?
Sam.
I've already forgotten it. I'm no better than Louis Gossett Jr. Where she's like, like I got some ideas to try and like pinpoint where Punisher's hideout might be. She's like, here's all the spots where he's killed, and like Louis Gossett Jr.'s like, you think I haven't tried that? And she's like, well, it could be underground. And he's like, oh, like never thought of that. Never thought that it could be underground. I just thought maybe it was on a street corner somewhere in an alley. And then she was right.
Yeah, I love how it goes to a scene of them underground together, but really the only purpose of that was to just talk more about like Louis Gossett Jr.'s past and his connection to Frank Castle. Like they don't find anything.
Right. They're just combing every inch of the New York City sewer system. That's what they're doing. 2-man job. It's not really a task force.
No, he doesn't have much of a task force behind him.
Before she came along, it was just him. It was literally just him.
It's like a fan club, really.
Yeah. More than anything. And I like that, like, the homeless thespian, I wonder if he already knew where Punisher's hideout was, because he, like, makes his way down there to find the Punisher, and finds him. So I don't know if maybe he already knew, or if he's just a way fucking better detective than these cops.
If he's been his informant for a while, you would think.
You think maybe he's had him over, met at his place? Maybe.
At least close to it.
And this is the part where I was like, I wrote down, I was like, how does the fucking homeless thespian know so goddamn much about what the fucking mob is doing? Like, he knows every detail of everything they're doing.
And, like, the Punisher even had a bug in the boardroom, because he heard the whole conversation when the Yakuza lady, Miss Tanaka, came into there and, issued all the threats and said what, she's trying to do. It shows the Punisher sitting there listening to it through a speaker. So it's like, what does he even need this friggin' thespian for?
Right. Like, and it's like, who did he bug when? Like, when was there any bugging done?
Like, did he, why, like, are any of those people still, I mean, I guess, the one guy who was out of the country or out of town or something, but.
And don't let my tone fool you into me thinking that this movie's not good. I'm just pointing out the fucking silly shit that's in it.
Right.
It was still fucking good. This movie was still fucking good.
I mean, it's kind of our job to pick things apart, but, we're, we said from the get-go that we like this movie. I liked it.
Oh, I mean, if you're looking for an artsy, like, Oscar season movie, then you're not gonna fucking get it. By those standards, it's fucking shitty. But if you like 80s action movies, it's goddamn awesome.
If that's the kind of movies you're into, why are you even listening to this podcast right now? This is pretty much, that's gonna be par for the course on every single one. Like, you got to know what you're getting into. And that's not to say that every cheesy 80s action movie is worth watching and is good. This one just is. This one, like, I feel like the plot of this movie could be slightly altered and updated and reused as a modern plot for a modern Punisher movie. Like, I don't feel like it was that different from either of the other ones.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same, a very similar plot as Warzone.
Mm-hmm.
As both of them. Punisher, well, there is no fucking plot. He's out to seek revenge. It's that is the plot. It's going to always be the plot to a Punisher movie, no matter what. So the next scene we go to, another great scene, is the underground casino. I guess it was a Yakuza-run casino. So I guess the Yakuza already had their toes kind of in to the New York underground because they had this elaborate casino set up that seemed like it had been running for quite a while.
You'd think, yeah.
That had a really gross stripper. Did y'all notice the fucking stripper?
She was like muscle bound.
Was it
only one guy looking at her too?
Was it a man?
No, it was a lady, I think, but it was a very muscle bound, strong. lady.
Like very muscle bound.
Right.
Very muscle bound.
And only one guy was sitting there looking at her. He didn't even look like he was that into it.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh,
this is here.
Okay,
I guess I'll watch it. I couldn't be more plain-faced.
I'm sitting here at this table with this dancer on it.
And so, the Punisher comes in and he's basically like, until the Yakuza, returns the mob kids. Because he doesn't want violence towards kids. Like, he's not about violence towards kids.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah. And he's like, until the Yakuza returns these kids, I'm going to keep, busting up all of their joints that makes them all their money, He
says every day that the kids are gone, you guys are going to lose money.
Right. And he starts to shoot up with a fucking M60, like all of the slot machines, and there's like people like running like right through his bullet fire, but they don't get hit. And it's like an M60. He's just like fucking just going to town in this place. Doesn't kill a single person until like some guys point guns at him. Then he starts killing.
He kills the first guy when he drops down. He throws a knife and kills somebody.
Well, I'm talking about like with the M60.
Oh yeah.
You know, like he doesn't like he's fucking just pumping M60 bullets.
It even has that like grenade launcher attachment that he occasionally will fire off, which. I thought that scene was really long. I got the point of what was going on there, and it just continues to show him.
Well, he's the hero of the film. Goddammit, physics be damned.
It's like he must be really enjoying doing this to just like focus on it for so long. It's like he's already wrecked the whole place, and he's still just unloading every bullet he possibly can.
Let's see. Now, normally I would have watched this movie like way closer to the time of us recording this, but I. Kind of was busy this week. I had to watch it a few days ago. So some of my notes, out of context, I can't really remember like what the fuck was going on. But I definitely wrote down that the spunky cop chick Sam has a shirt ripping fetish. Because like I can't remember why they're like ripping someone's shirt, but like Louis Gossett Jr. is like about to rip somebody's shirt or something, and she's like, "May I?" Like, no. May I?
It was to identify that because
they were Yakuza,
right?
Because they had the fucking Yakuza tats. That's what it was. That's why I need you in. That's why I need you.
Yep. For everyone listening, I literally watched this movie like before I came over to record this, so it's all fresh on this noggin.
You can fucking put these pieces together, man. Because right now,
that's why I'm sticking to my 5-year story.
I like that they had like back-to-back scenes of like Punisher looking at like a picture of his kids, and then like Louis Gossett Jr. is looking at a picture of Punisher's kids. And I swear to fucking God, it's the exact same picture.
It's the same picture.
Like, I mean, like, not just the same picture of them, like, it's like a ripped up picture, and it's like ripped in all the exact same places.
No, Louis Gossett Jr.'s was actually, and I thought this was weird, his picture is actually in pretty good shape, whereas Frank Castle's picture is really, like, tattered all around the edges and really, like, ripped up.
Yeah.
I guess it's because he looks at it more often, or, you know, keeps
it on him.
Yeah, takes it into battle with him, and it gets wear and tear, but...
They're on a fucking budget, people. Well, you can't just be printing out pictures willy-nilly. I mean, I'm sure they filmed the one scene with Lou Gossett Jr. with a nice picture.
Yeah. Back in '89, there wasn't, like, digital photography, you know, that was probably, like, what, $3 or $4 for one of those pictures?
And so then they filmed the Dolph Lundgren scene later with the more weathered picture. They just the same one.
Yeah. And then we go, like, there's a real theme of, like, I guess Punisher, like, shooting up, like, fun places, because they go to, like, a fun house next. And it's been a few days. I can't remember why they go to the fun house.
The thespian knows that that's where the kids are being kept.
Right.
Again, with the thespian's infinite wealth of underground crime knowledge.
I loved ninjas shooting machine guns on slides.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
like standing on their feet, like riding down a big chute, shooting machine guns.
That was like the fucking the carpet ride at Lake Winnipesaukee or the Alpine slide. You know, just the classic like amusement park slide. With like 5
where you sit
rows.
on like a burlap sack.
Yeah, and then here they come. This is with their fucking machine guns.
Perfect balance. They're ninjas.
I feel like that wasn't probably in the script. I feel like they just found out they were going to get to use this amusement park, and they see this slide, and they're like, oh man, you know what we got to do?
There's got to be ninjas fucking shooting machine guns riding down that damn slide. And there was like numerous rows of ninjas shooting.
Yeah, there was like waves of them. Like
in a surfing stance.
Yes. It was fucking awesome. I like at first I didn't know why he did it, but like the Punisher like jacks like a city bus, and it's like funny because like the bus driver like he stops the bus, he gets out, he's like going up to like get something at like a gas station or at, like a little like like side of the road like burger joint or something, and the Punisher like sneaks on behind his back, gets on the bus and steals the bus, and like there's still a guy on the bus, and the guy is like, wait, that's my stop, and the Punisher like stops for him, lets him off. And it's like, he couldn't have driven more than like 20 feet, dude. Like, were you like, was that not already your stop? He stole the bus while it was at a stop.
that bus driver must have been like super like in bad shape and just winded immediately. Like, as he starts running after it.
Yeah.
And by the time the Punisher stops, it still had to be in like view.
Oh, easily.
Like, oh, he stopped. I could probably catch up. No, didn't catch up to him. It's like the Punisher wasn't in any hurry either. He like stops, takes his time, opens the door, lets the guy like stumble his way because the guy's visibly drunk. Lets him stumble his way off the bus, closes the door back, sits back down, and drives off. He even gives the guy, I think, his money back.
And I wrote down here that there was like some, I don't know what I meant by this, sound-activated poison with a question mark? Like, there was like a sound happened and some poison shot out.
I don't think that it was supposed to be the sound. Oh wait, you're talking about in the
like in the fun. It would have been like around the time of the Funhouse scene, I guess. Maybe.
No, I'm thinking of a different part. Never mind.
Well, then this just sucks. So forget I said anything about sound activated.
Sound activated.
I don't remember anything about it.
I don't recall
Hey, if anybody who watches this after hearing it, like email me.
Yeah, and I do recall where you're talking about him driving that fucking bus. There's one really hilarious part. You know, he gets in essentially like a chase with the Yakuza, of course, and they're shooting at him and what the fuck ever. And he ends up like rear-ending one of them. And it's one of the biggest explosions in the movies. And he just like barely taps the car. It's like, meep. It's like, boom!
Everybody knows it takes nothing for fucking cars to blow up.
It causes them to crash into like a pest control truck.
Yes.
I think it's implied that those chemicals are really flammable.
Volatile.
Okay, there you go.
Why not?
But is that true? Like, I don't, like, you know, most businesses and houses have people come and spray those chemicals, like, you know, every couple months. Are you literally, like, is that hugely increasing the chance of your house just exploding?
So, like, the scene we're talking about with the bus chase is he's just freed the kids, which there also was a funny thing. It looked like the Yakuza had, like, some outsourced goons, because I swear, like, dispersed amongst their goons was just, like, regular looking, like, American dudes.
No, yeah, okay. I think that kind of got established, which maybe is a little later, but I feel like they had some other, like, mafia guys, too.
Right.
Because in the scene with, I guess the restaurant scene where the mafia guys are meeting up to give the money back to him, like, in the whole restaurant stands up and turns on these guys. It's a lot of Americans. Like,
yeah, that's true.
They had their little Yakuza Scuba Ninja Academy there in the building where they were training. So you had to think that maybe they were recruiting Americans to join that cause.
I like in the, you know, he's freed the kids. Little Tommy, who is the wise ass kid I talked about earlier, that was fucking the most straight up just like Mama Luke wise guy in the movie, I felt like. He's, I like that apparently he didn't know his dad was like mom, because like all the kids are there like held together, and he's like, why are we being held like this? And like one kid's like, it's because our parents are fucking criminals. He's like, my dad's not a criminal.
his dad is the biggest
criminal. And it seems like this kid blatantly knows. Like, he just seems like he knows. He seems like he's in the know.
I love how, like, in that scene, he's like, it shows, the first thing it shows is him, like, reassuring that scared little girl. That little girl has a line that's the most, like, obviously overdubbed by an adult line
Everything that little girl said was so ridiculously overdubbed.
Yeah, it was like 80 yards for sure.
It was like an adult, you know, like, I'm a little girl. I forgot my dolly.
Yeah, that was it. Hey,
like,
mister, I forgot my dolly.
Yeah, and that caused Tommy to get recaptured. Like, the Punisher didn't make it, he made it out with all the kids except Tommy, and I wrote this down because I thought this was really fucking hilarious. He gets on the bus, and you hear, like, the 80-yard, like, where's Tommy? And it's, like, the same fucking voice, so that girl would have known. I don't know why she would ask. And he's like, they've got him. I'll get him back. And I was like, the Punisher has to fucking validate himself to these kids.
Yeah.
Like, they've got him, but I will get him back. Don't you doubt me.
Despite the fact that I'm dressed in all black and I just murdered a bunch of people in front of you, I am the good guy.
And, like, so, like, it starts that bus scene. I like that there's, like, one part where, like, this, like, mafia guy, maybe it was a Yakuza guy, is, like, hanging on to the side of one of the bus windows. And it's, like, all the kids, like, go up and they're, like, fearless little kids, man. Just go up and start, like, punching his fingers to get him to, like, drop off, which works. These kids kill this guy. They fucking killed that guy, which it was warranted. It was warranted, but I like that, like, right before the scene cuts, one of the little girls is, like, punching the fucking hands, like, goes up and, like, starts to stick her head out the window. And they're like, oh, cut the scene. And then, there's a scene shortly after that where, like, he does come face to face with Louis Gossett Jr. And I love like one line. Louis Gossett Jr. goes, "What the fuck you call 125 murders in 5 years? Work in progress." Oh, I guess it was 5 years.
I told you.
I wrote down 5 years. Whatever.
Yeah, that was cool. I also thought it was funny how it's like there's this Punisher task force that's sole mission is to find the Punisher. And how does the Punisher get caught? Oh, he just turns himself in to a bunch of other cops.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. The Sam is like giving the Punisher a piece of his mind, and she says he resigned from the force because of you. Talking about Louis Gossett Jr.
Right. That's where I was like,
he isn't officially a fucking cop. Like what? Like, he's at all these crime scenes.
I guess because he was a cop, they're still cool with him. They know he's cool. I guess I guess the same way. And sometimes in movies they'll let like private investigators go on crime scenes and stuff. But I don't know. I guess it's the cop's discretion. Maybe.
So then the main mob boss guy, he's like the only one who hadn't got his kid back. And he really loves little Tommy. Like, he loves his son. So he's going to try and set up a fucking kind of like a team between him and the Punisher. Like, hey, Punisher, like, let's put our differences aside. You help me get Tommy back. We'll take out these Yakuza guys, and we'll worry about the beef between me and you after that. I think they, like, don't they, like, they capture Louis Gossett Jr. to, like, lure the Punisher in? Which I kept noticing was, like, a theme. Like, they kept, like, Punisher's friends kept getting captured. Like, because the same thing happened to, like, I guess the thespian. Maybe.
Yeah. They first tried to torture him to get him to talk, and then he wouldn't talk. So he's like, well, how do you feel about it when we torture your friends? And that's when they
bring in the thespian. Yeah. And then they also managed to get Louis Gossett Jr. too. So it's like, being friends with the Punisher. I mean, you would imagine being friends with the Punisher would probably put you in great peril, I suppose.
And then, of course, you get the Sting and Ric Flair-esque team up between the Punisher and the mob boss. And you said the mob boss loves his kid, and he does, but does he love him as much as he loved that sweet fucking denim jacket?
Oh, man. I definitely wrote that down. I was like, fucking sweet. It was denim on denim. Canadian tuxedo.
We're gonna stealthily invade this place, so I'm wearing all black, but better make sure I wear this sweet collar-popped denim jacket. Acid wash as fuck. That stands out like nothing else.
Oh man! And so this is leading to the climax of the movie, which had maybe my favorite. Like I said, that the scuba ninja scene was like my favorite part of the movie, but like my favorite, just like one like quick scene, actually was them busting in on the room full of samurai and just mowing them all down with machine guns.
That was the Scuba Ninja Academy. They had it all down in one fucking fell swoop.
Maybe those were just the slide ninjas, though. Maybe
those were the slide ninjas. Like 50 of them sitting there knelt. They're like kneeling with their fucking swords at their hips, and it's like, boom! Oh, it's the Punisher. Let's stand up. It's like all dead.
My inner Japanophile was like kind of like almost shed a tear for that. I'm like, all this great samurai heritage and culture is just being mowed down by machine gun fire. Literally raped by machine gun fire.
I also like that, like, the ultimate ninja, like, the best ninja of all of them, is the white chick that's part of the Yakuza. Like, yeah, of course. Why not? Let's have her be the best ninja. Like, she's the one that, like, the Punisher gets to have, like a karate fight with.
She's the witch. She's the main one who, like, gives him a run for his money, too.
Right, yeah, like really, like, beats him up for, like, not too long, but, like, for a second. Like, she kind of, like, it's hard for him to beat her up. Let's put it that way.
I did think the fight that he got into in that one room with the two, like, they're hiding out as statues and they come to life to fight him. That was a pretty cool fight, I thought.
Yeah, that whole scene was cool. Like, I liked the cult, like, I guess, like, they cut the power. Oh, God, that was funny. Yeah, they have the fucking, like, they have the homeless guy, like, with some sort of, like, remote detonation device that's like, what's the first button do? It blows up the lights. What's the second button do? It blows up everything else. So it's like he had, I guess, pre-rigged, like, how was he, like, this was the Yakuza hideout, and yet the Punisher had some device that managed to control the lights.
The drunk thespian told him, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think
it goes around, like, planting explosions.
I think I think the sewer place where the thespian was literally, like, right under that building, because when he hits the light one, it shows a box behind him blow.
Oh, okay. Okay, there you go. Okay. But of course, like, the thespian, like, he couldn't just be there, like, hitting the buttons. He has to, like, drop the detonator, like, into, like, a grate or underneath a grate, and he has to like try and poke it with like a long stick. So it's like, oh no, the thespian might not be able to hit the button, and the Punisher's plans will just go all to shit.
Oh man, while we're on...
But they didn't. The thespian came through in the clutch.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of the thespian, we did skip something that I wanted to bring up. Back in the scene where he's first telling him about how all the kids are getting kidnapped, I thought it was hilarious how the thespian was just rhyming for no reason at all.
In rhymes.
He didn't do this any other time in the movie, but it's like, did he prepare all these rhyme statements ahead of time? He's like, I'm going to say this, and like, I wish I should have looked up the quotes and written that down. I just thought that was great.
And then, like, the main Yakuza boss chick, because at this point, the Punisher's gone through all the goons. He's beaten the white chick, Master Ninja. And it's like, the main Yakuza boss chick is, like, painted up like a geisha?
Yeah.
It showed her doing that dance in front of her white chick, who's her adopted daughter. It's like, why would... She's the top tier. Why would she be interested in doing, like, an interpretive dance that, I guess, represents a lower class of people?
Yeah, and you have to, like, paint yourself like a geisha to do it. I mean, they were like, she's Japanese, man. How awesome would it look to have her painted up like a geisha?
Right. I mean,
that's what I wrote down. I said, why not?
Yeah, why the fuck not?
Why not? No reason not to. So he beats her or kills her. Was he throwing a knife into her head? Or
yeah. It was a pretty quick, like,
she's holding the boy.
Right. The main deal with her was the showdown between her and the other mafia guy, and then just when you think she's about to cut that kid's throat, she's holding it like real super close. And I expected to see blood trickle down just to show that she's serious. They didn't quite go that far with it, but then Punisher just jumps through the glass and throws the knife and just goes right in her head. And I thought, like, the way they fell, I was like, oh, but that kid's probably going to still fall on that knife, but of course not. They're not going to do that. But
and that's so the Yakuza, they're defeated, but the inevitable is about to happen. You know what that is.
Yeah. It's like, the team-ups can only last so long.
It's going to dissolve.
They had both expressed interest in, after this is over, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
No, when this is over, I'm going to kill you.
You'd have thought they might have gotten, like, out of the same room as the little kid.
Right.
But no, they just fucking fight, like, right in front of the little kid. I like that the Punisher seemed really surprised by the mob guy's Kevlar vest. Like, he was like, never would have thought you'd have Kevlar on. Despite, before they went in, he offers a Kevlar vest to the Punisher, and the Punisher's like, ain't my shit, man. Oh, have it your way. So he knew he had a Kevlar vest. And he just kills him right in front of the sun.
And then he's like...
It wasn't like an intentional, like, he didn't just, like, execute him. It was, they were struggling for a gun.
And he gets shot in the struggle.
But, he did have to kill him, because if he didn't, then the guy was going to kill him.
Right.
So it was life or death situation.
That's true. I guess that guy did push the fight. Like, that guy took the fight to the Punisher. The Punisher probably would have let him, like, been like, hey, to get a head start, I'll come after you later. But that guy was a prick.
Right.
He was a prick. I can't remember exactly, like if there was any kind of lines there he spoke that was like, or maybe the Punisher, like, disrespected him, so he felt like he had to fight him right then, maybe?
Yeah, well, he just basically said that, like, yeah, he had to make sure that, he's like, I have to make sure you die, so that now that there's no competition, he's like, I got to hand it to you, now that there's no competition, I'm going to be able to, in 5 years, I'm going to build this mafia back up, it's going to be even bigger than it was before.
Right.
And then my son's going to grow up and take it over.
Right.
And so the Punisher's like, oh, the fuck, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The Punisher murders the kid's dad, but then manages to have a tender moment with him there.
Well, the kid's pissed the fuck off. I wrote down the line, and it's, grow up to be a good man. Because if not, I'll be waiting. Yeah. And I think that probably set that little shit in his place, probably.
Right. Well, the kid had just, like, apparently, like, I guess it was earlier that day, or maybe the day before, found out that his dad was a criminal. But then saw his dad do some pretty criminal fucking shit right in front, he's like, because the kid thought the Punisher was a good guy, and he was even trying to fight his dad, like, come on, no, Dad, don't kill this guy.
Yeah, me and the Punisher have been through some shit together, man.
And then the dad gets killed, and the kid's like, well, I'm going to kill you, and he's like, do it, and puts the gun to his head, and...
Oh, that's true, yeah, he
tries to encourage the kid.
He does play some fucking crazy psychological games with that kid.
That kid is, if he's not going to grow up to be a villain, he's definitely going to have, like, a lot of money in therapy. Like, that's for sure.
He'll probably grow up to be a psychotic fucking vigilante like the Punisher, I would say.
Well, unfortunately, we'll never know, because unlike most of the superhero films nowadays, the Punisher movie just kept getting rebooted and kept getting rebooted. So none of these stories that might have led to something later we ever really got to see what happened, including this one. But I was very happy to go back and revisit this movie.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I'd watch it again, like, soon. You know, like, I could watch it again. I could watch it again tomorrow, you know?
Like, when we did Hard to Kill, we noticed, we talked about how it was, like, super painful and boring through the middle. Mm-hmm. You know, like, almost hard to watch, you know?
Yeah.
But this one, I never felt like that. The whole time, I was like, nope, the pace was perfect.
Yeah,
like,
the pacing was good. The style of the movie looked really cool. You know, it just had a good grittiness to it. Like, I thought it was a fucking great Punisher movie. I thought if you had the fucking skull on his chest, it was a perfect Punisher movie.
Right.
I don't give a fuck if you change somebody's name or if you change the exact way that his family got killed. I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah, everything about the Punisher that you need to know is expressed in this
movie. I guess we should establish, too, I guess I didn't mention it in the beginning, that we're pretty big Punisher fans.
Oh, yeah.
Dan and I, at least, are pretty big Punisher fans. Ian, I'd say you're a Punisher fan. Probably not as big as we are.
Right. I'm a more passive Punisher fan, but I've never heard or seen a Punisher story or read a Punisher story that I didn't like. So.
Yeah. So, you know, I really like the Punisher, so I was looking at this under a microscope, you know?
Well, yeah, he's like one of my favorite characters, and an often misunderstood character, because people are like, how can you like the Punisher? Because he's just like a fucking murderer. It's like not heroic at all. And it's like, no, it's not. But it's like, I don't know, I try to put myself in what if it happened to me?
Yeah.
Like, how would I react, you know? And maybe I'd want to fucking go kill these motherfuckers.
It's like,
instead of like, well, I admire Batman more if it was me. Like, the human part of me says, fuck that. Yeah. I would be the Punisher.
It's like, you think, it's weird, because it's like, it's almost like paradoxical. Is that a word?
I think that's right.
It's a paradox. It's like, outwardly, he shows, like, the least emotion, whereas inwardly, it's like the fucking most emotion. It's like the most emotional, like, extreme is what the Punisher's going through. It's like fucking, like, you know, it's like realistic, you know, what would you do if, like, you were this guy who was a trained killer and your fucking family was killed? You'd fucking go kill all these fucking guys, you know? So, I just always love the Punisher, really love Punisher stories. So, let's get into some of the facts and figures here on this movie. It had a $9 million budget.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty fucking good-sized budget for 1989, I feel like.
Right. It was, yeah, that's...
And if you think about it, like, this was Marvel's, like, first attempt at a fucking movie. Which is really surprising that it didn't get released in America. That's fucking crazy.
What happened, I found this fact, what happened is the studio that produced the movie, they released it in the UK and they released it in Australia because that's where they're based, and it made, like, both releases didn't even make $1 million.
Yeah.
So that studio went under.
Right, yeah, like, I wrote down, like, in UK, it got, like, 287,000. In Germany, 245,000. I didn't see what the Australian gross was. But, yeah, like, there alone, you're nowhere close. You're fucking nowhere close, just out of those two figures right there.
Yeah, so they went under because of this movie.
So I wonder if that's why you didn't have, like, you basically didn't have another Marvel movie for, like, another 11 years.
Well, more than just that, there was a bunch of crazy stuff with Marvel's movie rights going on at the time. Like, apparently because the company was in really bad financial trouble, they'd sold off the rights to, like, all these different studios. And there were, like, multiple studios claiming they had ownership to Spider-Man, the X-Men.
Right.
And so all of this was just tied up in development hell for years.
There was almost, and it's a movie that I definitely want to do on this show, but there was almost a Canon Films Spider-Man movie. And Canon Films was just really, really low budget, but still got some theatrical release movies of the 80s, but they did, like, a lot of the Chuck Norris movies of the 80s. Mm-hmm. And they did the Masters of the Universe movie. And they were going to do a sequel to that and a Spider-Man movie and kind of film them at the same time to save money. And because, like, they went under or something, or they bounced a check, and Marvel took the rights back, so they couldn't do the Spider-Man movie.
Take it back. Give me my rights.
But all the stuff that they had, like, the sets that they had built and the costumes and all the pre-production work, they're like, well, we've got all this stuff and we've got a script. Fuck it, we'll just make another movie. So the Canon Film Company made this movie called Cyborg with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I love Cyborg.
I really want to do that movie for the show.
I'm sure that movie's fucking... I haven't watched it in years. From what I remember, it would be pretty craptastic for most reasons. But there's a shitload of badass action in that movie. JCVD, man, he's my boy. I love JCVD. also I gotta wonder, like, what the fuck happened to Dolph Lundgren? I kind of talked to Dan a little bit before you got here, Ian, about this. Like, you look at like some of the movies he had done. Like, you have Rocky IV. That's a big ass franchise, and that movie made a lot of money. Masters of the Universe, potentially a big franchise, could be a big franchise. That movie, it wasn't like a huge flop, but it was like it didn't make its money back.
Right.
Then you have The Punisher. This is a fucking Marvel. Like that's potentially some big fucking franchise.
It was actually a pretty popular home video release. I mean, I remember lots of people talking about it and renting the VHS when it came out as kids. I just think that the company was probably already fucking long since under by the time it hit video stores in the U.S.
It has gone to some other company who probably did the distribution.
And then it's like the last really kind of thing of note that he does for a long time was Universal Soldier, which made money. That movie did make money, which of course he was the villain in that. But then it's I don't know, fucking Expendables is the next time I remember seeing Dolph Lundgren.
He did a lot of B movies.
A lot of B movies. It's his fucking career just fucking took a dive.
But didn't really the era of the action star kind of decline in that period too? I mean, we're looking at Universal Soldier would have been mid-90s, so 92. You're talking from after the mid-90s, I mean, the mid to late 90s, there was some good stuff, but, from the early 2000s until the recent nostalgia resurgence for that kind of movie.
It was a lot of, action stars doing, romantic comedies that also had action. I know Schwarzenegger did a bunch of those, in that time frame,
Yeah. I guess that's really what it was. He was a guy who just fit so well in the 80s. And I guess the 90s just wasn't the decade for him. Or the 2000s. It took till the fucking Expendables. I could be wrong, maybe there's a movie in between there that was good or made some money or is a B action movie that is kind of a hidden gem. And if so, I would love to know and watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I mean, it's impressive, I guess, and it isn't that Dolph Lundgren even had the career that he did, because, you mentioned off the air, we were talking about how he's got, a PhD, and he's, a chemist, or he's got a master or something.
He's got a master's degree in chemical engineering.
There you go. Okay, that's crazy. And then also, really, he only fits one type of character. As an actor, he doesn't have any range whatsoever, but he's a charismatic guy. But,
he wasn't, in this movie, he wasn't bad.
No, he was cast fine.
Yeah, of course, this was a movie that required zero range.
No, the Punisher shot out and just a monotone guy. And
he was the street preacher in Johnny Mnemonic. The crazy Jesus guy, I think.
Sure, that, I still count that as where did this guy go? Johnny Mnemonic. I never watched Johnny Mnemonic. I feel like it probably sucked shit. Did it not?
I liked it. I mean, I haven't watched it in a long time, so it may not hold up.
It's the Keanu Reeves movie, right?
Yeah, I don't think it would really fit with our motif we've got going here. But I mean, I grew up but I like sci-fi, kind of techno, geek kind of stuff, movies like that. But just looking over his IMDb page, he's worked pretty consistently, but it's all B movies.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely there was consistent work in there, but it's here was a guy that was fronting these franchises and potential franchises, and then he just kind of fell into obscurity for almost 20 years.
Yeah, the first thing that I guess that he came back on, the Expendables came out in 2010, but in 2009 he was in. I remember when this came out, Universal Soldier Regeneration.
Right, yeah, I remember that coming out.
I don't think it did super well, but
probably not.
But that's the first, I think, theatrical release.
And that was the one that had him and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Right. They both came back for
and whoever else was in, because I think they brought Goldberg and
Did they bring Goldberg back too?
Yeah, the Regeneration one apparently had all the Universal Soldiers that they brought in, because I think they brought even in another action star. It's escaping me now who it was.
Yeah.
For the franchise, for one of the sequels, and this one apparently had them all.
Yeah. The first Universal Soldier was pretty badass.
I loved it.
I think, maybe. It's been forever since I watched it. I remember liking it as a kid.
I mean, Dolph Lundgren was the villain. He had a necklace made of ears, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I really remember is how Dolph Lundgren died in that movie, which was really, crazy awesome.
Yeah.
I don't remember it. Tell me.
He gets stabbed through on this. There's a tiller kind of machine with rotating spikes on a farm, and he gets impaled on that. and then it turns on, so it just shreds his body up. It's pretty gnarly, pretty radical.
It tore him up.
Yeah, you guys should definitely do Universal Soldier.
Until he was Regenesis.
That's perfect for Last Action Zero.
And also, legitimate karate background. He a second Dan black belt in Kyokushin karate. So, and I noticed that in the Punisher, like the fucking like martial arts fight scenes he got to do. I mean, he looked pretty fucking legit doing those.
And apparently, a lot of he did a lot of his own stunts in this movie. And a lot of the karate fight scenes are full contact because for honor reasons. Like a lot of the scuba ninjas are actually legit, also like accomplished martial artists.
Right.
And for honor reasons, they didn't want to fake it.
Right.
So that's a pretty cool fact.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And I think like the only other tidbit I wrote down just because I thought it was funny was that in the early 80s he became a bodyguard for Grace Jones. And they fell in love and had a short relationship, which I thought was fucking hilarious.
Grace, a lot of muscles.
That is a fucking scary combination.
Yeah.
That is some lovers that could whoop the fuck out of any other couple.
Are they breeding the next generation of super soldiers?
Of universal soldiers.
Fuck.
So, I guess next we'll be doing the Thomas Jane Punisher, 2004. I don't want to talk too much about it because obviously we're going to do a whole episode on it. I haven't watched that movie in a long time. So, but we're going to have Dan on again for that one. You're going to do all three of the Punishers with us.
Yes, sir.
I don't think I've seen that one since it was in theaters, which was in 2004.
Really?
So that's about a decade.
You haven't seen it since it was in theaters?
Yes.
Well, I fucking own it, and I've definitely watched it.
Yeah, I've watched it several times. I love that movie. I like Warzone a little better, but I definitely like it's the Punisher movie with the most heart, which is a different type of take on Frank Castle, but I'm very interested in watching it again.
It's been forever since I've watched it. I feel like I'm not gonna like it as much as I used to. I just feel that I think I saw like a couple seconds on TV the other day, and and it wasn't like I saw something that I thought was stupid, but it just kind of gave me the impression that like I don't know if this is gonna hold up because we've seen so many good Marvel movies since that came out. That it's like I wonder if it'll still hold up to me personally.
It'll be interesting.
I always liked it.
If you like Garth Ennis's Welcome Back, Frank, there's certainly a lot of that in there, like enough that I find it difficult to believe that you could hate it going back and watching it now because, like, I mean, the characters, like, we'll talk about it more next week, but the characters, like, definitely, they get some shit from that that's just right out of that book.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. So I think we've pretty much covered everything that Dolph Lundgren Punisher had to offer. We all seem to like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We give it our recommendation. Watch the fucking Punisher.
Did we look it up on Rotten Tomatoes or anything?
Its IMDb score is 5.6, which could be worse.
Yeah.
It's Rotten Tomatoes. It's 24% from critics and 32% from viewers. So not great, but like definitely not as bad as it could be. Also,
I'd give it probably a solid 8.5 out of 10.
God, okay, that's pretty high. That's pretty good.
I liked it. Like I said,
yeah.
I mean, but I'm taking into account what it is.
Right.
I wasn't expecting it to be up to par with like Warzone or anything like that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I personally would probably give it around like between like a 6 and a 7. 7, maybe a little bit above 7. I don't know. I'm bad at rating things.
I was going to say between like a 6.5 and a 7. Like, right? Somewhere on that scale. Because it's, like, people said it was just pure shit. And so it's pretty much had gotten this reputation over the years of being pure shit. That's what I expected, and it was not pure shit.
It is not.
It was quite enjoyable.
That's probably why my rating came so high, was just because I went into it thinking I was going to groan through this. Like I said, I remember as a kid really not holding my attention at all. And this time it really did. I was like, I like this plot. I like the characters. I like the acting wasn't laughably terrible,
Right. And I was texting back and forth with a buddy of ours, Andy, and like he's a big like 80s guy, and so like he's owned The Punisher, watched it more times than I have in my life, and I texted him, I was like, hey, yeah, I actually really liked it, was surprised, and he's like, yeah, it's all right, deviates from the story a little much, and I can make the argument that I don't think it deviates from the story that much at all.
I mean, only in execution, certainly in like spirit and in theory, I think they captured it like to a T. You know, it's just only some semantics, some minor details.
It seemed like a straight up Punisher movie. Like I was expecting it to be a guy named Frank Castle with black hair, and that to literally be like, and like he's killing crooks. I was like, that's probably gonna be the only similarity. Nope, it's the fucking Punisher.
Yes, definitely.
Cool. So, all right, next time we're gonna do Thomas Jane Punisher. Holla!